I think it's because I was sharing things that people didn't want to hear and discuss that was going on in our country, and I was educating them on it had to do with race.
Fact check these things that are going out instead of letting these conspiracies to go on, because these conspiracies are dangerous to some people, like
disinformation.
Yeah,
you don't agree. Like, what is the part you don't agree with? Like,
well, as an American, I don't agree in my First Amendment rights being taken away.
I'm really excited to argue with you guys more. After the first one, I was nervous. I was like, there's a lot of differing views here. Like, what's this gonna be like? And I can already tell it's gonna be amazing.
Today felt like what sisterhood and womanhood should feel like.
Welcome back, viewers. Thank you for joining us for week 2 of our show. Now, you might be wondering, what is this show? I know I've been getting a lot of questions. Have you guys been fielding those same types of questions?
Yep.
A lot of excitement.
Yeah, a lot of excitement. It's been really cool to post on social media and talk about this awesome opportunity that Sobhe and Our Success Media has given us. What's your experience been like working behind the scenes kind of on the creation of this? Do you feel that there's a lot of freedom?
Oh yeah.
It's totally like it's like a blank canvas that we have where we can make this whatever we want to be, which is an exciting opportunity.
Yeah, I agree. As you've been talking to people, what are some of the conversations that have been coming up for you guys?
The first thing I heard, I was at coffee earlier before I got here, and the first thing I heard was how exciting we need something like this in Reno. And I was talking to some other amazing women that are leaders here in Reno as well, and they're really excited. They actually had some tears when I was just talking about the vision behind it and just talking about all the powerful women that I get to sit beside on this couch. So really, really great feedback. I'm excited to see what all develops.
I love to hear that so much.
I've been hearing more, well, what I've been explaining to people is the show is really about unity, especially now, and we have, in this moment, it's not as unified as this country should be. And so people really, they're starting to respond to that. They like that. Like everybody, like we're a family here in Reno. It's small enough that we can make big positive changes, I believe. And so for the most part, people are really excited about it, right? Because they want to see different points of view coming from different types of women. And so it's exciting.
Yeah.
When I spoke with my friends, they were so excited because they're like, Reno needs this.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we don't need to be made fun of anymore with Reno 911 because we're like above that. And if people see
what is Reno 911?
No, like exactly. Like, this is us. Like, we should already have our like housewives of Reno by now. You know what I mean?
Yes, girl.
That's what I think. But people were super excited about it.
Definitely.
Yay. I'm so excited to hear that.
It's the diversity of different women from different backgrounds coming together, making it really excited for people to hear, like, what do we have to say and how are we going to, I think the excitement is how are we going to, mesh all of this together and not be catty, like, right?
Yes,
and
yes.
have such a positive influence on this city and put us on the map, So it's exciting.
Yeah, Reno is worthy of being put on the map. I just had a colleague in town from LA. He's been coming up to do some business meetings. This is his second trip up here. He's spent now 2 weeks in Reno, and he's noticed a theme. And the theme he notices is that everybody comments and cares about the Reno community. And that's new for him coming from LA. And I have to say, it was a very proud moment for me when I was like, yeah, come to Reno. It's a good place to be.
And we got it all.
Mm-hmm.
We got it all. It's a 24-hour town. If you want to go drink, or we have Tahoe, you go hike, and it's the place to be.
We have We have the international airport. You have 2 major highways that are going, through here, so you can make it. I mean, it's really attractable. But more than that, it's the people, the energy that are here. Mm-hmm. I left and I came back, and it had a hold on me. It really did, because you cannot find community. It really is the biggest little city. Like, you really cannot find that same genuine, authentic community like anywhere else.
Yes, and as a business owner, the opportunity is exciting. All of the tax benefits, the city wants businesses coming here. They want the growth. That's really exciting. And I'm sure for you too, being in the real estate industry, it's a good thing.
Yeah, it's interesting stuff to see how quickly it's changing, and the money that's coming here, the businesses and the different kinds of people. And they feel welcomed. And I think that's what a lot of feedback that I get, whereas changing states and moving cities can be extremely intimidating. And everybody's welcoming them with open arms, and they did not expect, especially from people from California. most of the time. Yeah, they thought there'd be a lot of pushback to that, and they're pleasantly surprised it's not.
What are you ladies most excited about when it comes to all of the developing happening? Because I've been watching it. I'm sure you viewers have been watching it. There's the Red Reno Experience District happening where Old Park Lane Mall was. There's all the growth south. North 395 is just booming, and I know that as somebody who's not in the real estate industry, I'm always really curious to watch these things unfold. And one of the pieces I'm most curious about is the Red District, because I'm curious to see if people are going to be able to move into that and give that luxury feel that they're intending and really change that area. And what do you guys think?
Well, I think it'll be a great idea, and I think that's what Reno really needed was a revamp and things like that, and more things to do. Like we're at the Emerson right now, which is now a walking district, so we're gonna have more apartments, and people can have that more city feel instead of having to drive everywhere. And Reno's going to definitely, like you just said, it's expanding north. It's really the only way it can expand these days is because we've got too much commercial that way, Carson City this way, California that way. Where else are they gonna go?
What
And
is a
then
red
to have
district?
that
I'm
hub
so
to-
sorry.
Oh, the Red District?
Yeah, I'm so sorry.
So the Red District is where Park Lane Mall used to be,
Okay.
and it's those high rises going up. And I think what's curious to me about it is it's luxury apartments, but they're not selling them. So people can't buy them, they're just going to be renting them. I'm wondering if there are enough people to rent those luxury apartments and if they're going to take a risk on that area.
Also feasibility. That's a major thing I'm noticing. I love the growth, but it's not exactly the most feasible for people that have been here, helping contribute towards like some of that growth. So obtainability for people that are, I wonder what that looks like, because I have seen some of like the pricing there, and I think it'll come down, but it's definitely tailored to a different community than what is originally here in some of those aspects too.
Isn't it all smart too? It's like,
Mhm.
it's a
Yeah,
smart.
they're smart, yeah.
Okay. You know what? I can't stand smart. I remodeled a home and the lady sold me all these things, a washer and dryer. It's smart. I'm like, well, I'm not really domesticated, so it doesn't really matter to me. I broke it somehow, I think. And then the oven is smart and all this stuff is smart. Like, can you just turn it on? That's smart. You know what I mean? That's what I want. That's smart for me.
I
But
think the affordability is a big question for a lot of, especially the Reno natives, because
is.
the sense of community that you guys are talking about is something that's been fostered by the people who've been here for
Yes.
it's not only the people who've been here our whole lives that have fostered this sense of community, it's definitely some of the transplants that contribute to it. And I think that sense of community is something that Reno natives feel very protective of. And that's why you see some hesitation towards, well, there's too many people moving in here, there's too many people trying to change what we are. And I personally think that our sense of community can grow. We can expand and welcome in, and I think it'll be good. We have the capability of doing that. We've grown so much over the past few years that it's almost like our entire town is a part of our sense of community centers around constant growth.
Yeah.
Part of our identity centers around constant growth. But the affordability, I think, is a hard thing for locals to wrap their brain around. I mean, we do, not just for apartments being, expensive luxury apartments, even on the buying and home ownership side, we still have good affordability. People don't really feel like it because we have a supply and demand problem where we don't have enough homes. But based on the median home price versus the median income, it's affordable in Reno still, and I think that's something we need to work hard to protect.
Well, you bring up a good point. I've heard people reference, okay, these luxury apartments are great, but there's not the jobs to support it.
Mm-hmm.
When you're talking about jobs at a Tesla that are, start at $13 to $16 an hour, where's the job growth to match the housing growth? And I don't feel educated enough to talk about it, to be honest. Are you guys familiar with the job market in Reno?
I'm familiar with some of it, and that's just more because I'm a person that tries to help people find their niche. But we're getting more companies that are coming in. I live out in Lemon Valley, so out there the development that's happening is insane. I mean, we have a lot of industrial, so also there's Amazon. There's a brand new facility that's a pretty big company that I forget the name that was on it, but they're coming. It just is also what they're going to be paying those employees, where some of that stuff there. But it's also about, I think, education and teaching people how to use their money. And what a lot of people I come across that are in my age bracket, they don't understand what abilities they do have ahead of them and how different it is from their parents in house buying. My parents didn't own a single home until I was 22, and we helped them with their house buying process to understand it. So there's just some things like that I think that would make a difference too, as far as.
You bring up a great point. I recently heard that interest rates on home loans used to be as high as 22%.
Yes.
And now they're down in the 2s and 3s. So
Financial literacy is what we need even more than we need affordable housing. We need financial literacy for people to understand what to do with their money, how to manage their money. Because like I just said, affordability in Reno isn't actually as bad as a lot of people feel like it is, because they don't have the down payment to buy. They actually qualify, but they haven't saved the money to make the down payment. And that's where the disconnect is, and that comes back to financial literacy and understanding. Some people are even scared to call a financial person, a financial advisor, a mortgage lender, because they feel so inept in their own what they know about finances. They're lacking in financial confidence, so they're scared to even start the conversation.
We should have that in our schools.
Yes.
Everything goes back to the school districts.
Yes.
We don't
that's
need
a
to
whole
have
other
activists.
conversation. Right? Why aren't we learning how to
Washoe
balance our
County School District
checkbooks,
is
learn about our credit, taxes, all of the everyday stuff?
Yeah,
But I feel a future episode coming on.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I feel like that would be
great.
something that would be really great.
Yeah. Something I hear often talked about on the subject of financial literacy, home ownership versus, am I ready to buy, am I not, is a lot of people talk about, well, I want to live now. So I could save up for my down payment, but I really want to move out of my parents' home right now, and I can't afford to do both, and I want to live now. What is your response to that conversation?
Well, your girl's all here for living in the present and living in the now, for sure. But there's a balance to that. And for you to continue living in the now, it definitely means investing in the now. So saving your money to be able to build yourself to that is definitely something. It just is about. I think it's a matter of perception. Is if they, you can still travel. Actually, here, by the time I was 21 years old, I had $60,000 worth of medical debt. Not anything to do with school debt or any other kind of credit card debt, medical debt. And I had to look at myself and say, what is my life going to be like? And I was doing that, let's live in the now, and I have to keep all my money to myself and wasn't thinking about saving for those things. Where I got a hard knock and it switched me around to the other way, and I was able to now create a way better future for myself and my children, and break generational curses and that aspect. But it's responsibility still, and if you don't want to own a home, that's okay. But you have to educate yourself and know what's going to be there if you change your mind.
I've talked to some of the young adults here, and I have some nephews and some nieces here that are now young adults. They've graduated, they've found pretty decent jobs, and they want to be out on their own. They don't like the house rules. They want to do them, and we can all attest to that and understand. But it is very, very hard, when we saw them last, I just told them, I was like, I'm really proud of you guys, because you guys are really hustling. They was like, if I could just get somebody to pay my rent. I said, oh, sweetie, don't we all want that? Oh my God, just pay my rent. They're having these problems, but having to roommate and, get roommates and live not just, a double occupancy, but having to get 3 people to just be able to afford living somewhere. So they are really complaining about the prices and how things have gone up, because it seems like it's set up for kids to have to live home a lot longer than before, like when we were,
Which has been a trend for past 5 or 6 years, I think. That has changed.
And is
that
that
means
a
my
bad
daughter's
thing?
never going to move out, so good. She can stay right there with me.
I'll keep my voice too. But I think acting in the now is the epitome of so many of our society's problems right now. I want to live in the now. I don't want to deal with coronavirus anymore. I want to live in the now.
Ooh,
I don't want to pay rent or pay for a mortgage. I want to live in the now and go out with my friends. This translates across multiple different problems our society is facing right now, is that we want to live in the now.
YOLO.
YOLO.
Yeah.
I think that's social media. That was never like that for my generation, to live in the now. We were always very responsible.
Is this a millennial thing?
I don't know.
So
No, what's
Talk
not
to
millennial?
us.
here, let me give you one thing. For
Wow.
me, I get frustrated actually, and have sometimes actually a harder time interacting with people that are my age, and
Well,
that's
you're very mature.
Mhm.
To be fair, like you are very free thinking. I could tell that from the first time I met
Thank
you. You've got an open mind, open heart. Not everybody's like that, but you're very mature for your age.
And I'm like, but I'm also like still, as much as I might be like open-hearted, I'm still very realistic. And I'm just like, you know, we really have to, millennial-wise, it is a millennial thing. There is so many people there. It's like it's a line that has been divided. You have people like me, and then there is the millennial that we're discussing right now. And it's not just millennials. It's that live in the now as a culture. I'll call that a culture, because I go across things and I'll be talking with people and having a conversation. And I'm like, oh no, okay, this is why that you're still in a situation, or you're still, because you're handling these things this way. Whereas somebody on my side is, I'm gonna be analytical. I take a step back and be like, what are we doing? We break it down, and then go forward from there. But not everybody's like
But
that.
I think
is.
it does have to do a lot with social media about, hey, Shonda's out and about San Francisco, Hawaii. Like, I can do it too. Why not? Like, take out my 401k. I'll go to Costa Rica. I'll go to Cancun. Post it all day. You know what I mean? Like,
You
it
don't
really.
post it didn't happen.
Yeah, exactly. Like, we put so much out there that I think we're trying to keep up with the Joneses. And because we watch celebrities and celebrities are doing it too, we're like, well, they can do it. I can travel there. Hawaii's just plain away, right? So I do think that social media has a lot to do with it.
Puts a false sense out. I
Yeah.
think that during coronavirus, for me personally, to have that step away from social media, because no one can brag, right? You're not doing anything. You're sheltering in place. So I'm hoping that for some people, I know for me, to put it on social media, so it happened, became so irrelevant to me. Like, who cares? You know, and if it wasn't for taking on this project and then my park, or not my park, but the community park, and I probably wouldn't be on social media, to be quite honest, because I found that it doesn't satisfy me.
Mhm.
But there are people that since Marva and I became friends, I tune in when she does her prayers and stuff during the morning at 9 a.m. So I like that. But yeah, I think that social media now, everything's kind of changed too, where people are going to take a step back and go, you know what, none of this matters, because it's irrelevant, right? Let's save money.
Isn't it interesting where this conversation has led us?
Well, I have ADD, so I don't know if that's what we're talking about.
And viewers, I just want to thank you for following this conversation with us, sticking with us. I have a feeling it sounds a lot like the conversations you have in your own kitchens, but I would challenge you to think about what are the types of people you're having these conversations with. And I just encourage you to be brave today. Take a step outside your normal safe space and have a conversation with someone that you don't know what the answer is going to be. You might not know their background, but that's how we can come together and lift our community, just through conversations. So we'll be right back after this segment. Welcome back. Today we're filming from one of my favorite bars in Reno, the Emerson. Have you been here before? I encourage you to comment, share your favorite drink, your favorite bartender, give them a shout out, give them some love. I'm absolutely loving this set. I may or may not have color coordinated on purpose. But thank you for tuning back in with us on your social media. Isn't this fun, just to have some girl time right in the middle of your day, right in the middle of social media? That's really our goal here. We just want to kind of disrupt the conversations you're having and bring some different viewpoints in. I know that that's what I want more of in my life. And one key word we keep talking about is depolarization. That's kind of a big word, right? So another way to put it is just community. And that's why we keep talking about community. One thing I don't know if you ladies have been concerned about, and I'm really curious to hear your take, the big talk this week has been big tech and big tech's control on our everyday lives. So regardless of where you stand in politics, because that would be too long of a conversation, I'm just curious if you are concerned about the reach of big tech and the role it plays in your life and just business in general, and what you see possible. And so Bella, what do you think? Do you think about big tech?
Of course I do. Of course I do. But have you seen that movie that documentary on Netflix. It's called Social Dilemma.
Yeah.
I think that explains it perfect. If you haven't watched it, you need to go check it out, because maybe something that I'm watching and I think is correct is probably not something that maybe you're watching and is, you know, you feel that it's a different way or correct. So I feel like there should be at least some control, of course, yes. But yeah.
Something interesting to think about the social dilemma is that's old tech,
Yeah.
right? That's dated.
Yeah.
There are new things that they're doing that we have no idea about.
What's a really important topic, and that I think we'll hit with you guys and maybe the viewers at home too, is, has anyone seen another Netflix show? David Letterman's My Next Guest Is, and
Yes.
he had Melinda Gates on, and she was talking about the lack of women working in technology, and why anyone should care about that is that right now what they're designing, the AI and the way it's going to run our world not too many years from now, if there's not enough women and people of color at that table talking about designing it, how will those of us living it out be represented in the way our whole world is going?
And these algorithms are so scary. Like, they really are. They really focus on what you're looking at, and they know how to nail you. They know how to target you. They know how to put that one comment out there that's just going to make you click. And it's just crazy. Like, we really don't understand, why is it that when I talk to you about something the next day, it's on my phone, even though they say they don't listen to us at all? Really? Are you not? Are you sure? Because I was talking about Tom Ford perfume, and now it's there. That's weird.
Yeah,
It's so weird.
That's weird.
And they deny it, which is even worse.
Or 5G.
You know?
There's been some interesting conversations that come up around 5G, actually pertaining to COVID as well. And
Wait, expand on that. I don't know the conversation.
okay, so I'm not an expert, but I would say right before COVID fully rolled out, and it was becoming as scary as it was in our world before March, I had one of my employer came to me, and he was talking about 5G, and he was joking but showed me some things about scientists. There was like a very big event. There was more than 100,000 scientists that came together and discussing why 5G is not good. And it's basically, I don't know, another Netflix series called Evolution. They lost all of their power because there was this big tech and data that was released into like the atmosphere. But 5G actually has the ability to carry like molecules and be used as a type of warfare, like biologically, through technology, other things like that. It has and so there's been certain places that are shutting it down or not allowing it to be built, but it's something that you should definitely research and look into as far as like EMFs and like what it can transmit.
I think you're onto something. I've heard that in Europe, they can't have schools within a certain block setting of different Wi-Fi centers.
They're
and
server
things of that
farms.
nature. Yeah.
Yeah, because
But see, we don't know what's a conspiracy now or not. So I think it's also the big tech's job to kind of fact check those things.
Yeah.
Wait,
you know?
it's big tech's job to check themselves?
No. to fact check these things that are going out instead of
I
leading
don't
these
agree with
conspiracies to go on, because these conspiracies are dangerous to some people. Like
disinformation.
Yeah.
You don't
I agree.
agree. Like, what is the part you don't agree with? Like, do you
Because,
not?
well, as an American, I don't agree in my First Amendment rights being taken away.
But do
I
you see
believe
the
that
problem in people getting information that's not accurate?
Then
presented as accurate?
that's the responsibility of the individual to figure out what's fact and what's not fact. I don't need a corporation who's basically like Twitter running the world, right? They're running it right now, to tell me how I can do my own research based on their fact check.
What about accountability for the people that are, like, when we talk about when somebody's interviewing another person, they're supposed to remain objective as a journalist.
Right.
That does not always happen.
No.
But who keeps, so let's like take that to another level. Like for me, I declined interviews like this summer. The people kept trying to reach out for certain things when it came to me like taking part in certain things in the community. And I was like, no, I won't have this conversation with you, and I'll tell you why. Because your news platform does this. Where's the accountability for that for big tech? Like, I think that there should be some type of, accountability and something to stop the disinformation. Like, we need to.
Like, who police the police?
Right.
It's kind of, that's what we're kind of looking at. Like, who's going to police this? Who's going to say what's, too far, or check when it's gone too far. Like, where is the balance going to be? How far are they going to be able to go? Or is this going to be just totally just in a bombardment of, this is what we're doing, and then that's when we're getting into basically being controlled.
Yeah,
Every movement, everything we do will be controlled.
But that's going to happen. That worst case scenario of being controlled is going to happen if this keeps going. The social dilemma talked about it. We have two sides of society living on two different planets. Because if you're watching Fox News, you are living on a different planet than if you're watching CNN. You're literally not getting the same reality. And then that translates into your social media. The algorithm picks it up, starts showing you only more of what you already believe, whether it's fact or not. And the polarization becomes so severe that it results in a civil war.
It's meant to be triggering.
And then what happens? We are controlled. Every move has to be controlled to reel the society back in. And when you talk about it, people think you're nuts, like you're going too far off the deep end. But when they stop and think, they're like, well, it's already happening. Like, look how bad this election has been, because people, there's no facts. There's no middle ground of reality. I'm over here and I'm only hearing news that agrees with me over here. And I'm over here and I'm only hearing news that agrees with me over here. How are we ever going to relate to each other if that just keeps going like that further apart?
Well, and then to what end, right? So social media, they have their algorithms that polarize us for profit. I mean, that's what it comes down to. They want to profit. And if we really want to take the reins back, I think the first thing we all have to do is get our heads out of the sand.
And talk to people we don't agree with?
And stop acting like it doesn't exist.
And defend the speech you disagree with. That's your First Amendment right?
No, more so, I think what I was getting to is that we need to relinquish some comforts and some convenience to take back the control. Because what we've done is we've checked all those I agree, right? The I agree and consent and, oh, sure. We don't even take the time to go look in our settings when we download an app. I mean, I don't.
Right.
I didn't used to, now I do. Mm-hmm. But it's something to think about, because we are ultimately paying the price for convenience. And what we're giving up is control. And then we act like, it doesn't affect me. My daily life is fine. I don't care if Trump's taken off of Twitter. It doesn't affect me. But does it? Because one of the conversations I've heard recently is that, they need to take off certain people who maybe are saying things that aren't true or inciting violence, but are they? Because last I heard, they said that they're not a publisher.
Exactly.
That they aren't. They're not saying that anyone is right. They're not fact checking anything. But then you're going to go and say, like, okay, well, maybe this one person and maybe this one person. That's scary to me, regardless of where you stand on the aisle and on the side of politics.
Yeah, because it could happen to you next.
Well, I actually experienced that for 4 months this year. Due to a lot of the activism, nothing violent, everything that I was being very vigilant in sharing was very fact-checked information, and Instagram shadow banned me.
Mm-hmm. What does shadow banning mean?
So it's where you don't know that you're getting shadow banned, but you're getting no traffic. So nobody can actually view. It's an algorithm that's been put in place. So basically nobody can view. I couldn't post with any kind of caption, only a picture. I could only post to my stories. I could not like people's posts or comment. It completely, it allows you to still be there, but not exist, basically. So people weren't viewing, they weren't able to see my stories anymore and, anything of my information that I was sharing. And it's because, personally, I think it's because I was sharing things that people didn't want to hear and discuss that was going on in our country. And I was educating them on, it had to do with race. I'll be frank, it had to do with race and, educating on that and everything. And I literally was shadow banned for almost 5 months. I almost had to start a new account. I couldn't reach out to any of my clients. It was really bad. And the moment that I stopped sharing those things, I was not shadow banned anymore.
And so here's the thing, I hear this a lot from photographers, right? And that they're getting shadow banned. And so it's kind of like, well, who is this? Is there just one person focused on her and one person focused on this photographer? I've been shadow banned too. And it's just kind of like, who's doing this and for what reason? But you're absolutely right about the tech companies. How are we as Americans being controlled by a tech company, right? And how many people are in this tech company? Right now, I just know this one, Jack Dorsey, and this Mark Zuckerberg. How are they controlling me? I'm an American woman. I was born free. But I'm not now. And they're just taking it over because what? It wasn't fact checked. They don't like what I have to say or somebody has to say. That goes against everything our founding fathers built on this country.
But they're taking it over because we allowed them to.
Because we allowed it. You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
We have slowly allowed big tech to take over our lives because no one wants to be that person that says this is wrong. Because what are they're going to come after your business, they're going to, whatever they're going to do.
Do you guys think
It's
that
scary.
people having trust in the media again, not social media, people having trust in journalists again would help to solve this problem? If people felt like you could get good, authentic, credible, unbiased news, the way people used to respect news anchors and rely on the media to deliver the information we needed, then the danger of social media would be minimized a little bit, and then the need to censor on social media would be minimized. If Instagram and Facebook weren't the main sources dissipating information to our culture and it went a little back to when we relied on credible news, I don't think we have credible news now.
No, we don't.
But if we did, do you think that would solve the problem?
I think it absolutely would, because one thing I've been noticing on Facebook especially is people posting these articles and with these absurd titles about them, and like Rona, one of my favorites was "Cats are the carriers of coronavirus," and I was like, what? And so I clicked on it, and it didn't have anything to do with cats and coronavirus. It was no clickbait kind of thing.
Yeah.
But people did. They went off on it. They read the titles. They don't do any research, and nobody slows down enough to formulate an argument and to do their own research of credible sources before getting so emotional and just getting into these wars on Facebook. And then, as we all know, with the algorithms, the more people like, heart, have a reaction, comment, the more people it's shown to, and it's just this snowball effect of BS that's completely out of control.
It is systematic.
It is. It's totally systematic.
Well,
and
do you have favorite writers that you go to?
Oh yeah, I do. But I think I can definitely attest to this. Is I don't watch the news anymore, and haven't in years, because it was negative. It was sad. It was this. But part of it is, it was reality. Like, this is what's going on. You can't make it up. And I didn't want to know about that stuff anymore, so I kind of shut myself off to it, and then just went to Facebook, and then got on that snowball effect of BS. And somebody checked me one time, they're like, your argument's trash, and this is why. And I'm like, oh, you're right, it is.
So honestly, respect on. I have been that person, and it's not easy, but respect on them for.
Oh yeah, I love
If
it.
they're not coming to you and telling you that, in my opinion, they ain't your people.
And respect on you for
Exactly,
just admitting
exactly.
that, because that is the reality.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like that, and I would be embarrassed to say, like,
Totally.
I don't watch the news as much as I used to, and my degree is in journalism, because it's frustrating how like we'll flip back and forth between Fox and CNN, and we're like, what? This is like beyond ridiculous. And then it is all really sad and stresses me out, and then I feel like I hit a block of like, how terrible is the world? But nobody's admitting that. No one's talking about it, saying, I don't watch the news anymore. I just look at Facebook, and it didn't serve me well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
It's because Facebook is so
What really,
negative.
yeah, what really is
Kudos
the
to you, though.
solution here? To keep your rights and not spread lies? Like, what could be the solution?
That's a really great question.
You know?
I think diversification for me is something that comes to mind. When you have, one or two or three big players, there are antitrust laws for a reason.
Right.
And they're
Right.
not being, held to these tech companies the way they're being held. Or even, let's be real, the energy company in Nevada, right? There's not a lot of, I don't know. I just find it very interesting that certain industries are held to not have monopolies, to have the antitrust laws, and then other industries are. And I think that tech's one of them, because no one can come near them. Because they played this game of chess so long. We had no idea what was coming, right? Why did we go to social media? Because we felt like we couldn't trust the media companies, because big business was dictating what the anchors could talk about. So we didn't trust media. And then we went to social media because we said, oh, well, this is safe, this is fun, this is just our friends. Look at our, my friend from high school, their kids, oh, this is so fun. I mean, for a while there weren't even ads on it. But they played a long game, and now everything's kind of coming to the surface because of the rate of technology and the rate of the more that we all talk and connect. And
we just have a lot of opinions, period. Everybody has their own opinion. And just like they tell you in school when you're making an argument, dissertation or whatever, they're like, you can always find something that's going to back up your statement or your or
That's
how
so
you
true.
feel.
Have you heard that saying that if you wanted to, you could Google "I hate Mother Teresa" and you'd find websites that agree with that.
Absolutely.
So keep going though.
So yeah, so because we have that, what's happening is that we're getting bolder about what we really feel. We're getting bolder about, what we really feel about politics. And politics and different things we were staying away from, so it wouldn't create politics, religion, all of that. And so now we have a platform where we could talk politics, we could talk religion, we could talk family, we can talk, whatever is going on in society and community, and we can put our opinion out there without having anybody to check us or have any accountability to say, why would you put that on there? It's going to stir trouble. Well, there's people on there just to stir trouble so they can keep their algorithms going and they can get their followers. And so much is so unreal. Like, it's so unreal. You have to really check where that you're living in reality. It's like, is this real? Like, that you're not, because you don't know what to believe. So fact checking and making sure that you're doing your own investigative work. Like, you've heard those things like, this person is dead, and you're like, oh my God, it's all over the internet. Then you look it up and then they're still alive. Yeah. So, it's just, it's a personal thing.
Well, and to your point, people are getting bolder behind the screen. They're not getting bolder in person. So that to me would be where we could go next, is instead of getting bold on a keyboard, getting bold on your phone, try having a conversation with your coworker, with your neighbor.
Lost.
That's what's been
100% that has been lost. Because I have come to realize, I had somebody come up to me, as a coworker, and he was like, we're friends, he's a big fan, like, we're like, okay, but he's like, yeah, you really always come armed to the conversation. He's like, I'm really great at having a personal conversation with you face to face. If I feel something's going on here, I'm like, you okay? The energy seems off. Like, what's going on? And I'm very direct.
You and I would be good friends.
That.
Yes.
Whereas it can catch a lot of people off guard, and they're like, excuse me? Like, I'm like, yeah, is there an issue? Like, let's discuss it. There seems to be some kind of energy here. right. They're like, okay,
I'm gonna fight you right now. I am tearing you up.
And bet I'll get home and I'm gonna have a text message. But when I was with you, you couldn't have a conversation with me. Got it. All right. And it is, because like people lose that, not even just like in an argument, but like connecting with people on a personable level and getting to create those relationships. I've struggled with that because I'm just like, I'm not a small talk person. I'm like, let's dive in. So here's my traumas and what I'm not gonna project onto you today. Like that's
You're
kind
very
of
self-aware.
And also accepting, but so I mean, that's something that's happened with us having social media, is that we're so connected, but are we connected?
And we're passing this on to our kids. That's like the scary part, because think about it, when was the last time, if you do have kids, last time you actually sat at a dinner with no TV, no nothing in the background, just had a conversations with not being on your phone? That's so hard. Like, I know the other day my husband cooked this great meal, and he sat down and he was looking at Facebook, and I look at my daughter and she's watching TV, and I'm like, wait, no, off everything. Get off everything. Like, let's talk. Even if it's for 5-10 minutes, let's talk. And we're losing all that.
Yeah. Think about what you miss from your kids. Like,
ladies, this is such great conversation, and this is exactly why we need this show. And so, viewers, if you're enjoying this, please like, please share, and I encourage you, get outside, talk to a neighbor, talk to a coworker, have a conversation about one of these topics you've heard us talk about today. Welcome back. I have to tell you that when we were on our break, we had some really heated, wonderful discussions. And my question to you, the viewer, is when you get in those discussions, if you just watched our last episode, you'll know what I'm talking about. How do you de-escalate from that at a dinner table? Well, I'm going to teach you how I do it. So, Bella, how's your pregnancy going?
It's going great, but I feel like we have to talk about Armie Hammer. Did you hear about that drama?
No.
Okay, so Armie Hammer is that very handsome, charming guy that plays the twins on Social Network. Did you guys watch that movie with Justin Timberlake? You know which one I'm talking about?
Yes.
Yeah,
that tall guy. He kind of has like that Superman vibe, like Henry Cavill type of vibe. Well, apparently there's been messages, and they were leaked, where he's into cannibalism.
Really?
Yeah, and
He eats those butts?
no, like he likes to eat people. Like he.
Well, you eat the butt, because that's the meat.
What?
Well, if you were gonna eat a person,
I love that you
No,
do that.
that'd be the fatty part.
The fact that you do that.
Barbecue.
Right.
You,
I mean, how would you know that?
and
You're a journalist.
eat you.
Where do you get body parts to eat?
I learned it in
So, okay, so here's the thing. When I saw this, I was like, this has to be such bullshit. Like, this is so not true, right? This guy who has everything, who I think actually comes from a billionaire oil tycoon family, has the looks, charming. He doesn't need to do all that, right? Well, then more women have come out and said that they've dated him, and now that they dated him, and like in a month they realized there's something wrong. They had to go get some health, like they had to go get a therapist, everything, and more women are coming out.
Did he try to eat them?
No, it's just the things that he would say. He likes to choke when he's getting it on. He tells you he wants to barbecue you. I guess like if there was a cut, he likes to lick it like very softly. Like there's something about it that just turns them on. Which is so weird, right?
It's like a
But
sadist.
So what's that?
disinformation.
No.
Can anybody fact check?
Well, here's the thing. Here's the thing. If it was one woman, I would be like, eh. But there's multiple women coming out saying that they've experienced this. And then there was a video yesterday that was leaked where he was licking some guy, his hand, and he had like little crystals, like drugs on it. So obviously this guy is a manipulator, a con artist. And just imagine like you meet this guy as a woman.
Yeah.
You're seduced by his looks. He's an actor. He has
Like a Ted
everything. So when do you get out? When do you think like, ooh, this is weird? Because we know we've like dated guys and they're kind of weird and they're into like some freaky fetish kind of stuff. But like when do we say like, no, like this is not right. This is abuse now.
Yeah,
You know, that's
know?
a really
My
great
God.
question. I would love to hear what Martha
It was the
thinks.
Donner
Oh.
Party.
Yeah.
That's where I learned it. The Donner Party.
The Donner Party, the movie, right?
Yes.
Well, I saw the movie.
It's the best.
They did the first in the movie.
So Marva,
Okay. Okay.
Marva, tell us, when would you get out?
I would get out when my intuition says get out. You know, I think you should never, like when you know that stranger danger, you know that sign that you get, they say something and your hair raises on the back of your neck, that means go quickly. You know, be calm about it, but make your exit real quick. So as soon as that intuition and you get that creepy, something's not right, trust it. That's your gut telling you that something is not right. You need to go.
Do you have daughters?
I don't have
You
daughters.
should have.
Feels wrong is
But
wrong.
that's what you think. But this guy's charming. He's an actor. He has money. He has it all. You know what I mean? Like how many women have actually met that con artist guy that didn't know was a con artist until 3 years when her 401k is all gone?
You know what? It
You know?
let's say they ignored it because your inner self is always going to be true. That inner part of you that keeps you safe, that's there to keep you safe and let you know that something is going on, we ignore a whole lot. It's because I want this to work because he is so charming. Right? I want this to work. I want him to be it. Like I see it already. And us as women, we already planned the honeymoon, the wedding. We've already set out the dress we're gonna wear. And so we will and then don't let us introduce them to friends and family. Now we have this, we got to let everybody know, like we could now, and we got to take the pictures on Instagram, put it on Facebook, and now we have this image to uphold, and so we'll deal with a lot of crap in order to protect, what we've already put out there, to protect our dream of that man that's gonna come and be all of that. And we put up with a lot of stuff, and then sometimes it's just downright dangerous. We find ourselves in very, very horrible situations, and then when the truth comes out, it's very, it's so bad. I was just listening to someone on Facebook, and they were confessing their what happened in their marriage because everybody else in their marriage saw it as something beautiful and great, and they didn't know that this man, he was beating her down. He choked her out until she would pass out. But she was like, I couldn't tell my family. I couldn't tell my family. I couldn't tell my sister. Why? Because I just wanted them to think that I was okay, and I didn't want them to be like, you made another mistake. It was her second marriage. And so she endured that for a long time. What called it on the carpet for her was her daughter. Actually, she found her hanging, and she was 9 years old. She found her hanging, and she said, that did it for me. She says, because she had so much pain bottled up inside of her, because she saw what was going on but couldn't say anything and didn't have an outlet to talk about it. And so, so that's what did it for her. Did she see the signs a whole long time ago? At the very beginning of the marriage, she saw it. It came out. But because of the facade, because of what she wanted people to believe, and to protect her own pride, she stayed right in there. So, I think that inner thing, we got to listen to it.
And I think that it's important. Like, I love that she did that, and I'm sad that happened the way it did. But for me, like, I grew up, I'm a latchkey kid. We grew up very, very different. And my mom always talks about how she's like, I have such empowered daughters. Because she doesn't see herself, though, we're like that because of her, but she doesn't see herself the way we see her, and how resilient she was and the strength that she did. But she would always put on this bright, happy face and always try to just like, I can do this, I can fake it till I make it. We need to see that struggle. We need to call out when a male or even a female is making you uncomfortable. Because it's not okay, and it's okay to say it's not okay. But I think that's also where it comes from, is like the societal view of like a picture perfect, like, marriage is not easy. Relationships are not, they take work, and I feel like we don't talk about that enough.
This summer, I was going through some different emotional intelligence trainings, and one of the topics we talked about was taking 100% responsibility. And the area I struggled with that was the idea of when you're victimized, right? What happens if you're abused, you're raped, different things happen. And what's coming up for me right now is very interesting with Bella's point of view and Marva, what you were talking about, because there is a point where we make choices and we make concessions. And if we truly embody that 100% responsibility, would we have been victimized? It's just something to think about. And, I've been embracing taking responsibility in my own life and what that looks like, and going through different healings. And Shivani, do you ever, when you're looking back at maybe past situations or maybe hurts that maybe you've held on to in the past, where does responsibility come in play for you?
To me, I think it's relieving. When I can find out why something bad happened to me was my own fault, then I can make sure it never happens again. So I constantly try to figure out what my responsibility was in that happening, because then I can have control over making sure it doesn't happen again. If I don't take any responsibility for what happened, then there's nothing I could do from stopping it from happening again. So I think that's an important way to look at it. And then I do think that there's times that society and there's circumstances that put people in situations where things are out of your control, but your control is to remove yourself from those situations that cause you that discomfort, that cause you that pain. And I wish that people talked more about what their marriage was really like.
Yeah.
There's like, everybody's idea is never talk bad about your husband in front of him. That's your role as a partner. And I just don't think that that's realistic. Like, think about how much better being a mom got when all the other moms started being real about how it sucks. Motherhood is so much better for my generation than it was for my mom's, because they never could say that they didn't love their perfect darling children and they had to do everything and pretend that everything was great and have dinner on the table and the kids needed to have, clean faces when the husband got home. Motherhood for us is easier because we can openly talk about what's hard now and what we're struggling with. Think about how much better marriage could get for everybody if nobody believed anymore that it had to fit inside this one cookie cutter way of doing things, and more people were honest about what's really going on in their marriages, what struggles they've overcome, because other people can learn from that.
You said something so powerful just now. You said that we should be able to just basically talk about it, and you were saying that if people were able to recognize what they did wrong. This is where I think this is so important, is because when people don't feel good about themselves, they are going to put themselves in unhealthy situations.
Yes.
And that's why it's very, very important that we don't judge. Like, people are hurting, but if, you know, you did it to yourself, you put yourself in that situation, you know, you should have left, you already knew. It's like, no. When you feel bad about yourself, or if you've just come out of a breakup, you may make a very irrational decision or choice. You may put yourself in harm's way because of just what you're feeling, that pain and that neglect, and or just the abuse that you have gone through. And so you just, you know, so I actually empathize and sympathize with those who can make the mistake and understand that they make a mistake and move away. But I also honor those that come out of it and tell their story, and tell the realness of how they were feeling. And because that's a big part of, you know, we all sometimes make emotional decisions that put us in harm's way. You know, I can say that I did make this. I'm like, but I was feeling so bad about myself. Like, I was just feeling horrible about myself. And so to do something that put my life in danger was not a big deal, because it was like, whether you live or whether you die, it doesn't matter. So you kind of just make those bad decisions. But I think that is so powerful what you said, that, you know, we sometimes we put ourselves in that position, but the bigger question we should ask is, what was going on with you?
Yeah, you have to understand the trauma or something else that went. Like, I'm honestly the last person to judge somebody. I'm like, what trauma could have led this person to make these decisions? It's
Right.
What, you know, we can understand. You don't just have to, people say you accept people for who they are. No, I see people for who they are, and then I choose to accept that aspect of them and understand why it might play out this way, or they make certain decisions the way they do, because I had to do that for myself.
Well, and that's where relationship and context comes into play, right? Because I think what you said was so powerful, Marva, where you said, don't judge people, right? We can't judge others and say, oh, well, you put yourself in that situation. But it's also very powerful, like you said, that where Shivani said, you know, I took ownership and I realized where I put myself in this position. And I think the difference is relationship and context. So, you know, your mom, your best friend, hopefully we can have those conversations and be vulnerable and be honest. But maybe the person, you know, on Facebook that's watching that says like, oh, you did this to yourself, that is completely uncalled for, right? So there's different levels and there's different contexts of the conversation. And I think the biggest question is, are we having those conversations with each other, with our close friends? Are we saying, hey, what was your part in this, friend? Do you feel safe to have those conversations with your friends, right? And then, of course, I do want to put a disclaimer. This conversation, I think, is separate from any of the abuse or neglect or things that happen to children, because no, they don't have a choice to put themselves in that
They
situation.
don't get to have a voice.
Yeah, but as adults, you know, to your circling back to what we started with, the intuition, right? When you're dating someone and you're going, this doesn't seem right, or you're in a bad relationship and you don't feel safe telling other people what's going on, that's where we can have those gut checks about what's our role in this.
And how we normalize, like, saying it's like, I am a safe space for you to be able to come and share this with you, because it's embarrassing, you know, somebody that might be going through that or having a hard time, depending what it is, you can feel shame for yourself, being like, oh, I recognize this, but I'm still here and I'm still doing it. I think if, as a friend, personally, as a woman, I like to try to offer people to understand, like, I'm not going to judge you, and if there's something like that going on, then you should be able to have somewhere to come to, because otherwise that's how, why didn't you come to me? How do we know if we don't know? Well, you need to make sure that somebody knows that they have a safe space to be able to come to you with that.
Yeah. Shonda, for you, what are these conversations like with your friends or your daughters about, you know, responsibility and also compassion, and how does that show up for you?
Well, I ask my daughters if they're happy. I don't have a problem doing that, and I just started that. So I've evolved during COVID. When we all had to shelter in place, I strengthened my relationship with God, and it made me a kinder, softer person. And when I went through my depression, I had learned to always, even more so, there's this thing, always be kind. And you look at that, you go, whatever, but always be kind, right? So just checking in with people. I write letters, I write notes to people. I keep pointing at Bella because she's a personal friend of mine. But, you know, I send notes to people and things like that. I just kind of check in and let them know in my way that I'm there for them and stuff.
Do you ever have a responsibility conversation with your friends about different situations? Or is it...
And such as...
You know, and I think that's the hard thing. If you're for example, the situation if you had a friend who was in an abused relationship, and then afterwards it comes out, and they open up and, they're processing through the hurt and you're a close confidant. Do you feel safe enough to have the conversation of, hey, what was your role in this, friend? Because I personally think it's important to healing, but I also recognize that sometimes we don't feel safe holding our friends accountable in certain ways.
Yes, I do. And the reason why is because I have, in terms of friendship, I have 4 quarters rather than 100 pennies. Right?
I have the same
So
concept of
I
that.
keep people very close to me. And so, yes, of course, I feel confident in saying that I would be able to say, so what was it about that? In terms of abuse, I come from an abusive background, so I know there's a lot of different layers to that. To what Bella was saying about this actor, Hollywood's a different animal. Right?
Yeah.
So when she says that all these women were there and why were they there? Well, they were there hoping to get a role. I mean, you've never seen more people desperate than anything than actors in Los Angeles. My youngest is an actor out there in Los Angeles. And I made sure that she had a strong base with the God of her understanding because I let her know you are going into the belly of the beast. And that's how those people are. But in terms of like with abuse and stuff, I think that's just, it's just such a big topic on its own. But going back to your question, yes, I do feel that if I had a friend, my close friends, and they were coming to me with something like that, I would feel confident saying that because my circle is small and it's tight.
And I think that goes on how you like to develop, what kind of friendships that you develop and like want to have. Because I'm very similar like that. I like to keep more, and if I can't have that kind of conversation with you, I feel like I'm not, even if let's just say something that's maybe not so traumatic, but if I can't have a conversation with you and keeping you accountable and vice versa, personally, that's not a friendship that I think that's not gonna help me grow, and I can't help that person grow, and it just mutually isn't beneficial.
And where it ultimately starts is with ourselves, right?
Right.
I mean, I've been on a journey to hold myself accountable. And victim is a word I would have never used with myself. I'm not a victim. I am not victimized. And what I've learned over this past year is sometimes I can become disempowered, and the one doing it to me is myself. Have you ever experienced that, Katie?
Oh yeah, I got some stuff too, and this is a tough one to talk about, and it's scary, and especially for a bunch of other people to be able to see and not know what you've been through in your life and your career, changing states. We all have one, and one thing I got to say I'm so sick of hearing is look for the best in everybody. And I don't mean that horribly, but I feel that kind of the intuition that you were talking about, that somebody can just rub you the wrong way and you don't want to be around them and you can't put a finger on why isn't your intuition just enough? Like why do we have to justify
I agree
that?
with that.
And now is that to say like obviously that's a horrible person, there's not an ounce of good in them. No, but when like my sister, her and I were having this conversation and she's been around somebody that is rubbing her the wrong way. And she's coming up with all of these reasons to justify her feelings behind it and how she's trying to create a plan to get out. And sorry, Rose, but it's tough and it's hard to see. And then I said, well, there's good in everybody. Like maybe you're just being too sensitive to this. And she just kind of looked at me at this face, and she lost trust in me in that moment. And I was like, I'm just kidding. I take that back. Like I didn't mean it. But go with your gut. You don't have to justify it, and you don't always have to explain yourself to other people. Like it's okay.
It's okay.
And especially with me being a realtor, like sometimes I have to put myself in some dumb ass situations, and I'm never showing vacant land ever again. And this guy did. He rubbed me the wrong way on the phone, and I was like, this isn't going to end up well, but I need a sale. I'm going to go. And it ended up biting me pretty bad. Luckily, nothing happened, but it had all the layouts for it to happen, and I was traumatized by that. And then when I went back to the brokerage, they're like, how'd it go? And I was just bawling my eyes out, and they're like, oh God. And I'm like, why'd you do that? You know better. Don't go do these things by yourself. And I'm like, but I didn't know better, and I didn't know that I could ask for help, and I didn't know that you wouldn't think that I was weaker or like scared or smaller for asking.
Because the fact of the matter is, you're not.
Yeah, because you're
At
not.
And
And it
trust
was
your
a dumb
gut.
situation. And like when you say don't put yourself back in those situations, I'm not ever showing vacant land ever again. And certain stuff where it's like if I get that gut feeling, just go with it. Or very easily, just say, hey, you know, so and so, I'm gonna go show this house. Do you mind coming with me and just hanging out for the afternoon? It's like that should be enough, and that doesn't make you a small person.
Yeah.
Can I go
Another-
just say something about trust your gut? I taught my daughters that very early on, to trust their gut. And my therapist told me, she had shared with me, trusting the gut is so important because if you don't trust your gut, then you're always going to be saying, oh, that's okay. And then you're going to lose that ability to trust your gut because you're just going to keep passing it off like it's not real.
It actually causes a physical impact in your body.
Yeah, it does. Like for me, it was part of the job. That's why I told myself, like, I'm gonna go show this vacant land lot because it's part of my job.
Well, and like
No, it's
Marva
not.
talked about, if you're dating someone, oh, but I like, he's really cute and he's got a lot of money and I want to get married, or right? So you wanted the
pros
sale.
and cons list
Yeah.
and everything.
But another great
That's it.
conversation, ladies. Another great topic. Thank you for joining us on this journey. It's funny to see how talking about an actor accused of cannibalism leads to a conversation like this. But that's what we're here for. I want to thank you for taking the time to watch this. And I also want to thank you in advance for your compassion, understanding that there's a lot more context to the situations that these ladies are talking about. And so I just encourage you to keep listening, keep getting to know us. There's a lot more good conversations to come. Thank you for tuning back in with us again. We're back from a break, and before we move into our last segment, I just want to take another moment to thank the Emerson for their amazing space that they've offered to us. It's been such a joy to have our show here. It's felt so warm and inviting, and I encourage you to come down, have a drink. And then also, I just want to give Leela the opportunity, you know, on this show, we are passionate about women, and women-run businesses is something that I'm very passionate about, and I know that the other women on our team are. And so Leela has brought some products from a good friend and a fellow business owner, and go ahead and introduce them, Leela.
So, for all of the amazing ladies, for our girl talk, I brought on shots from the Happiest Hour. These are terpene shots that are used to help craft your own cannabis experience or just a regular relaxation experience for that mom time, that girl time, whatever it is. So each one, this is called Wake, and this one's going to help you with waking up without the jitters, some really great, amazing information. But mostly what I love is this company is local, it's women-owned, and they give back to our community in so many different ways. So they're the Happiest Hour. I encourage you to check them out, and I brought one for everybody to take home today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So before we end today's segment, I just wanted to hear from you ladies. What is one takeaway that you're going to leave this last hour together, or last 15 minutes if you're watching? And what's the one thing you're going to take away from a fellow co-host? Something that was said today that just spoke to you. Katie.
I think my big one is the social media conversation that we were having about fact checking, and that finding that source. And I believe that people are just going to believe what they're going to believe for whatever reason. But save some face and do some research before you start polluting the internet with a bunch of BS and crap, and really put some logic into your responses. And for me, especially, I'm talking about being triggered and stuff like that, where sometimes I have to catch myself like, why am I arguing with this person in Florida about politics? Like, go sell a house or something. Like, stop. And just slow down, you know? And, like, don't let things get emotional. And then if you catch yourself getting upset about something, go do your own research. And then take it away yourself. Have the peace of mind. You don't have to explain your views to anyone else. But don't get so wrapped up in the BS, I guess.
I'm really excited to argue with you guys more. After the first one, I was nervous. I was like, there's a lot of differing views here. Like, what's this gonna be like? And I can already tell it's gonna be amazing. We're gonna live up to our pact. Like, we're gonna be able to have a glass of wine after we argue. So I'm looking forward to doing more.
Yeah, me too.
I just feel like I learned so much. I really did, just because these conversations usually I have with my own friends or my own family. So there's so many different views that I didn't see before, and a lot of things were answered. Maybe the way you said something or you asked something, I got a question out of it that I never saw that way, that point of view. So I think this is going to be awesome for me, culturally and everything. So I thought that was great. But I also need to bring more light in here because it's pretty intense in here.
Yes,
Fun, you know.
Yes, keep bringing us the random cannibal actor comments. What's
I'll leave it
next?
awesome.
I mean, how do you live up to that?
Oh, I got some good ones. Don't worry.
Yeah.
We'll bring the light out of all this other stuff.
I love it. And Marva, how about you? What was one takeaway from the conversation you're gonna leave from here with?
What was refreshing to me was listening to the ladies talk and just how real that we desire to be. I think that is the most authentic way of, reaching the hearts of people is by being real and by being honest with how we feel about the different topics that we're used to dressing up and putting on that face to make everything look okay, but that to know that we're all human, we all hurt, we all have pain, we all have struggle, none of us is perfect, and to be able to sit with ourselves and be real. I look forward to us being able to take the mask off and really tell our story so that people know that they're not talking to a front line of women who don't get them. Like, we get you. Like, I just went little thug there. Huh? We get you.
We get you.
But we get you. We get you. And we're all touchable and we're all relatable. So I'm looking forward to that. And so that really it really impacted me real big today. So thank you all for that experience.
My takeaway is I'm excited. I love all the women sitting around me, and today felt like what sisterhood and womanhood should feel like is what you said. I feel like I can still have a glass of wine with every single one of you, but also be able to have arguments or Socratic thinking is how I like to put it. I'm a very Socratic person as far as conversation goes, and I learned so much, and I'm excited to learn more. That's my takeaway is this is just the surface. It is like an onion. We have so much more to peel back and enjoy together.
My takeaway today was I really enjoyed the trust your gut conversation, but the First Amendment and going into big tech, that's always been very important to me. As someone who loves this country, I'm fourth generation in this country, and my daughters are first. So the First Amendment rights are I'm passionate about that. But it was great to hear where everybody else was coming from too, because I can be. I'm kind of guilty of staying a little bit in my own echo chamber because, again, I like to hear I like to feel comfort from that. But it is important to me, as a gentle reminder today and in these conversations, to get outside and hear more. And don't be, because I was telling a lady here that, I read Matt Taibbi. Well, I'm not talking to Matt Taibbi, so it's a little different, right? I'm not getting any feedback from Matt Taibbi. And so that was important to me. And I, too, anticipate and I'm excited about all the conversations we're going to have, not only here on the couches, but with our growing audience of new friends. So, and thank you for this opportunity. It's wonderful.
Truly.
Thank you again to our Success Media for being the team behind the scenes to make this possible. I really enjoyed this conversation today. It felt a lot more comfortable. We're getting to know each other. What was exciting for me was to see all the different ways that the conversation went. We started with one topic and we landed somewhere completely different. And that's just the beautiful thing about women and just human nature in general. And the mind is a beautiful thing. Everyone has so much to contribute. We're excited to hear from our viewership as well. So please comment, like, share, let us know your thoughts. And we hope that you'll continue this journey with us.